I asked you guys on my community tab to give me a hot take for your favorite NBA team this season, and today I'm going to look at all 30 of these hot takes for every NBA team and see if I agree or disagree with these. And if you want to be featured in the next one of these, make sure you are subscribed or follow me on Twitter. Link is in the description because I'll be posting these on Twitter as well. And timestamps will be in the description as well if you wanted to hop to your favorite team throughout this video. Let's get into it. All right, so we're going to start off with the Minnesota Timberwolves, and this is a spicy one from Chill Doc, and he says that Anthony Edwards is in Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell combos, never was in that Luka or SGA tier. So yeah, this is definitely an interesting one to look at right now because I think going into the year, Ant was somebody that was maybe on the outside looking into the top 5, but most people had him ahead of Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker in maybe their shooting guard tier list. And it definitely makes sense, right? Anthony Edwards has brought the Minnesota Timberwolves to back-to-back conference finals, and honestly, he's off to a great start this year as well. He's averaging around 28 points, 4.8 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 47% from the field, 39% from three. Once again is showing that he is one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA right now. He's getting to the line at a career high as well. And I think the reason for this person to come up with this hot take is maybe the team success right now. The Thunder are the 1 seed, they're 19-1. The Lakers are the 2 seed, they're 14-4. But Minnesota has had their struggles so far. And I got plenty of hot takes about the Minnesota Timberwolves point guard situation and how it's going to be their downfall this year. And it's definitely affected Minnesota so far right now, but they have been a top 10 team in terms of offense and in terms of defense this year. The point guard position has been handled by Mike Conley, Bones Highland, a little bit of Rob Dillingham, and Dante DiVincenzo, with Anthony Edwards even playing more of the small forward position than the point guard position. And I guess I'm going to have to technically agree with this one. Now, I'm still taking Anthony Edwards over Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker, but they're still so close, those three, because all three of them have been great this year. I just think Luka and Shea, specifically Shea, are just in so much of a different tier than Ant, Booker, and Donovan Mitchell right now, just because I think the gap between basically Shea and Luka to the next tier of guys is way larger than basically Ant from Booker and Mitchell, because it's going to be incredibly tough to crack that top 3 in the league right now, because you have Jokic, you have Shea, and then you probably have Giannis and Luka in that 3 and 4, and then when Wemby is healthy, I think he's the 5th best player. I think what's a more interesting conversation is like who's the best American right now, because Jason Tatum is hurt, you have Tyrese Halliburton, you have Cade Cunningham, Anthony Edwards, Mitchell, Booker, Jalen Brunson as well. I think that's going to be a cool topic throughout this NBA season. This one here comes from some dude. He says Alex Sarr, Keyshawn George, and one of Peterson, Boozer, Wilson, DeBanza will be a future big 3 and a top 4 team in the East within 3 years in DC. I mean, this one's easier said than done, right? I will say what you have right now, the certainty that Keyshawn George and Alex Sarr do look like franchise building blocks for this team. Alex Sarr has been one of my favorite year 2 guys this year, and I tweeted out a couple days ago, like, there's not that many young bigs I am taking over Alex Sarr in the league right now. Like, it's Chet, it's obviously Wemby, Mobley, Jalen Duren, and then I think Sarr is in that next tier of guys. He's been great here in year number 2, still playing about under 30 minutes a night, but shooting 51% from the field, 34.5% from 3, averaging 19 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists. He's been a great shot blocker this year. Keyshawn George has been an elite 3-point shooter here in year number 2, and I think he has to do so much defensively for arguably the worst defensive team in the NBA. It's just trying to land one of those guys in the draft. Just comes down to the lottery. You can get lucky. You can definitely get unlucky in this, but if the Wizards do finish with the worst record in the league, they're guaranteeing themselves a top 5 pick. So yeah, in a dream scenario, adding Boozer in the front court with Sarr or adding Peterson in the backcourt with Trey Johnson does sound like something that can really make the Wizards a formidable team in the Eastern Conference going forward. You're just putting a lot of luck into that right now because it's not certain that you're going to land yourselves one of those blue chip prospects in the draft. It's really just up to the lottery gods. For the Golden State Warriors, Carson mentions that they're going to miss the playoffs this season. Now, it wasn't too long ago, basically this time last year, that people were sounding the alarm on Golden State. They really needed to make some type of move to get Steph some help on the offensive end of the floor. They went out, they got Jimmy Butler. Now, this year for Golden State, they're about 10-10 to start off the season. They're ranked 12th in defensive rating, but they are a bottom 10 team offensive rating, and this team cannot really generate any high quality shots when Steph has been out. And he has missed a little bit of time this year. He's going to miss a little bit of time going forward. So it's a lot of pressure on the young guys. And Jonathan Kuminga was maybe supposed to step up for this team, but he's also dealing with a knee injury right now. And I do feel like we're heading towards a point when Kuminga is eligible to be traded, he is going to get traded this year. I'm not really sure what player the Warriors are going to go after. Are they really going to try to overpay for somebody like Trey Murphy or Herb Jones from New Orleans? Are they going to go to maybe like Zach LaVine or Domantas Sabonis from Sacramento? I think they're going to be a fascinating team to look at this year because I don't really think any of the young guys are untouchable. They want to move Kuminga. I think they'd be willing to move Brandon Podziemski. I think they would love to hold on to Moses Moody because he's been a great three-point shooter this year. But if he's the piece that can get a deal done, that can make you a title contender this year, I think they're going to do it. It's just so tough though because this is a clear window with Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond. So they want to push all their chips forward this year. There is a scenario where they could have made it to the conference finals last year if Steph didn't get hurt against Minnesota. It just feels like where Golden State is right now, even after making a trade, they're still going to be nowhere close to OKC in my opinion. They're 19-1 and they just got J-Dub back. It's crazy. JT Fitness mentions here for the OKC Thunder that they can solidify themselves as potentially being an equal, if not better dynasty than the 2018 Warriors. P.S. They will break the 73-9 record. I mean, I can sit here for another half an hour talking about how good the Oklahoma City Thunder have been this year. They're 4th in offensive rating with just getting Jalen Williams back. They are by far the best defensive team in the NBA, even looking better defensively than they were last year when they were also by far the best defensive team in the NBA last year. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has just an unreal stat line. He's leading the NBA in basically field goals made per game while not even being top 20 in minutes per game, and he's also turning the ball over 1.7 times a night while averaging 33 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists, shooting 42% from 3, 89% from the free throw line. So you already have an MVP candidate on your roster right now, the reigning MVP and Finals MVP, Chet Holmgren, Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, Kaysen Wallace, Hartenstein, Wiggins, AJ Mitchell stepping up this year. They have so many good offensive players and defensive players around Shai. If they wanted to, they have so much financial flexibility, roster flexibility, draft pick capital to go out and make a trade if they wanted to at the deadline. I doubt Sam Presti is going to do anything unless an injury happened. But yeah, this team could definitely win 70 games. Last year, they won 68 games. This year, they're better, and I think they're healthier right now than they were last year just because Chet missed so much time last year. Caruso missed a lot of time as well. It's just unreal how stacked this team is, and they're going to get a lottery pick most likely from the LA Clippers if the Clippers don't make the playoffs. Like right now, they're projected the 7th overall pick in the NBA draft, and they're probably going to win the finals. That would just cement them as another dynasty in the NBA, in my opinion. I think winning back-to-back titles in the 2020s in the modern era where nobody has gone back-to-back in almost a decade since the 2017-18 Warriors can make you a dynasty. And what if they add a Peterson, Boozer, or Debanza? Oh my God, it's like Sam Presti's playing 2K in real life. Cheryl mentions here for the Phoenix Suns that they are going to make a huge trade before the deadline, including Dillon Brooks and Grayson Allen, which eventually end up taking them to the conference finals. And this is definitely a hot take because if you told me this before the season started, I would have laughed at you. I was not high on the Phoenix Suns whatsoever this year, but they have been more than respectable this year. They're top 15 in the NBA in terms of offensive rating, defensive rating, and net rating. And this is all without basically their second best player on paper going into the year, Jalen Green, only playing 2 games so far. Devin Booker has done a great job as the number 1 option. Dillon Brooks is averaging 21 points per game on 44, 32, 87 splits. That's not the best efficiency in the world, but this guy is also giving you great defense on the other end of the court. Grayson Allen has been an elite 3-point shooter this year. Mark Williams has exactly been what they've been missing over the last few years since basically the better years of DeAndre Ayton. Colin Gillespie has to be in the most improved player conversation right now. Now, this hot take, I don't know really. If you're going to trade Grayson Allen and Dillon Brooks, arguably your second and third best players this year, you really need a difference maker coming back. I'm just not sure what difference maker you're getting because if somebody is trading that said difference maker, why would they want Dillon Brooks and Grayson Allen? Because they are not young players. Dillon Brooks is an expiring contract next year. Grayson Allen is under contract going forward, and the Suns don't really have any draft capital to trade at the moment. I think they could end up making some type of trade this year. I don't think it's going to be that big of a move. I think they'd be happy being a 7 seed, 8 seed, and losing in round number 1, giving up the 15th pick in the draft, because going into the year when the Orlando Magic traded for Desmond Bane, the main asset Memphis got back was this year's Phoenix Suns first round pick. And that pick definitely does not look as good on paper as it did in the offseason. For San Antonio, this person mentions that they are actually going to win the championship this year. Fox develops his chemistry with the team in the regular season. Stephon Castle continues to improve in his playmaking, and Wemby remains injury-free for the rest of the season. Even David Jones-Garcia would be the dark horse for the playoffs. Hey, I asked for a hot take for every single NBA team, and this person delivered. The Spurs this year have been a top 10 team 100%. They've been a top 6 team in net rating, rebounding, top 7 in offense, top 7 in defense. And yeah, they've had their fair share of injuries with Harper, Castle, Fox, Wemby, all missing time this year. They just beat the Denver Nuggets without Wemby and Stephon Castle in an elite NBA Cup game on Friday. Devin Vassell stepped up, and that's what the Spurs have. Different guys that can step up every single night. I think De'Aaron Fox has really looked the part this year, and I expected him to be a top 10 point guard this season. That was one of my quote-unquote hot takes in the offseason after he got extended, and he's looking the part this year. I just want to see a decent sample size with Fox and Wemby. We really didn't get it last year. We haven't really gotten it this year, but I think Dylan Harper has looked the part out of the gate. Keldon Johnson's been efficient around the rim. Julian Champagnie has stepped up as a three-point shooter, and having Olynyk and Cornette as backup bigs for this team is exactly what they were missing from last year's season, having that depth. And yeah, even David Jones-Garcia is really a crafty scorer as well. We'll see if he ended up getting minutes for them in the playoffs, but I definitely believe San Antonio is making the playoffs. We still have so much time left, but I don't think I would take them over OKC, Houston, or Denver in a playoff series. But honestly, if they're at full strength, we never know. I just want to see what Wemby looks like healthy, because we haven't really gotten that since his rookie year. For the Houston Rockets, Chris mentions that KD wins in Houston and officially becomes in the top 10 talk of all time. So this obviously could be a different conversation for a different day, just looking and analyzing Kevin Durant's legacy in the NBA, because individual talent, you could make a great argument he's a top 10 player of all time, but you could look at the way he maybe took his career path, going to Golden State, winning 2 titles there, but not really winning a title anywhere else in OKC, Brooklyn, Phoenix, and right now in Houston, but that is still to be determined. This year, the Houston Rockets have looked great. They're pretty much a top 5 team in the NBA, in my opinion, and definitely elite in most team metrics in the league. Reed Shepherd has looked like a most improved guy this year, although I don't think it should ever go to sophomores. Şengün should be an all-star this year. Amen Thompson may end up just being an all-star snub. But Tari Eason is knocking down his threes. With all these injuries that they have right now, Aaron Holiday has stepped up as an offensive creator. And they haven't even gotten anything out of Dorian Finney-Smith yet this year either. They just beat the Golden State Warriors and the Phoenix Suns without Kevin Durant. So this is just a luxury that Kevin Durant really hasn't had in his career since the early Brooklyn Nets days at the start of the decade. And I think they're just a fascinating team to watch this year at the deadline, just because they have a $25 million contract in Fred VanVleet that's not going to give them any production this year because he's out for the year with the ACL tear. So would they think about trading him? He does have a no trade clause, but it could give you somebody that can help you out in the playoffs. But if Kevin Durant did win a title this year and he goes through Denver, OKC, and beats the team in the East in the NBA Finals, yeah, I can agree with that. Because I think it's fascinating, like active players right now that are better, or I think could be better all time than KD. Like it's obviously LeBron. Steph could have a great argument, right? I think Jokic is going to have a great argument as well. He may already even be better than KD all time. So yeah, getting a ring in Houston can really just give Kevin Durant such a massive leap in the legacy talks. Armand mentions here for the Toronto Raptors that Scottie Barnes is top 3 in DPOY voting this season. Now, a big reason why the Toronto Raptors are 14-5 this year has been their overall defense. They're top 4 in defense right now. One of my bold predictions before the year started, they were going to be top 7 in defense. So I hope this one stands. I'll look a little bit right there. But yeah, Scottie Barnes has arguably been their best defender. When him and Jamal Shetter out there at the same time, they can really complement each other so well on the perimeter. And what Scottie Barnes has for him as a tier 1 athlete in this league, he can guard out of the post extremely well on the perimeter. For somebody that is 6'8", 240 pounds, it gives you such a massive advantage on the defensive end of the floor, being able to go under screens, over screens, guard multiple positions, fly around as a help defender on that side of the court. And Scottie really hasn't taken like that offensive leap this year, but when you watch Raptors games, you can see that he's way more efficient than last year. The shot selection looks so much better as well. He has a great benefit to him now playing off of Brandon Ingram, who does demand so much of the opposing team's defensive attention, and Scottie has been elite defensively. Finishing top 3 is going to be tough. We'll see how many games Wemby plays this year, but he's definitely been one of the best players defensively in the league this year, so it's definitely a possibility. This person mentions here for the Detroit Pistons, Jalen Duren is the next uber athletic big and will reach Dwight Howard levels in his career. Pistons are the best team in the Eastern Conference right now, and it's largely in part because of Jalen Duren's leap on both ends of the court. He has looked a lot better defensively than last year, at least at the start of last year's season, and he has looked amazing offensively as well. His catch radius as a downhill like alley-oop threat is unreal, and he's up to 19.5 points this year, 12 rebounds, 65% from the field, and has been a good shot blocker. Now, he's just averaging 1.1 blocks a night, but I do think his defensive impact goes beyond the shot blocking statistics. We'll see if he reaches Dwight Howard levels, just because Dwight was so good in Orlando, but Duren definitely reminds me a little bit of young Dwight in Orlando, and it's just, like I said, been a huge part of Detroit's success this year. This person mentions here for the Pelicans that they're not a diehard, but Derek Queen has every tool to beat DeMarcus Cousins someday, and I value him more long-term over Fears. I think because of the versatility that Derek Queen provides you, I could definitely see the reasoning for having him above Fears long-term, but they're both way more effective offensively than they are defensively, and the Pelicans have way larger issues than those two rookies right now. They're one of the worst teams in the league. They're the only team to fire their head coach so far this year. We all know that they don't have a first-round pick. Plenty of guys are already hurt, and Zion Williamson has been in the best shape of his career, but he probably looks the worst, or at least the least impactful of his career so far. But I've been super impressed by Queen, and everyone's going to look at Derek Queen because they traded away their first rounder this year for Queen. I said it on Twitter. I think if this pick falls outside the top 3, they won the trade. If it's in the top 3, they lose the trade. And Queen this year has averaged 12 points, 6 rebounds, 3.5 assists. He's been a lot more effective under James Borrego and when he got inserted into the starting lineup. Kind of going back to the Dwight Howard, Jalen Duren comp, I do think DeMarcus Cousins was unreal as an offensive player in his early and later days in Sacramento. So those are definitely high standards for Derek Queen. But what he has with his offensive versatility as a passer, he could maybe be as effective offensively one day. They just have to be patient with him, and I hope they are. This person gives me a Pacers hot take saying that they're going to trade away Benedict Mathurin at the deadline to acquire their starting center and still have their 2026 pick to add along with Tyrese Haliburton coming back next season. So yeah, like the Pelicans, the Pacers have been one of the worst teams in the NBA this season, but we can get why. Basically everybody is injured. It started with Haliburton being out for the year before the year even started. Andrew Nembhard, Nesmith, Mathurin, Toppin, Johnny Furphy all have missed a decent amount of time this year for the Pacers. They have been playing a little bit better as of late, and I do think they're going to be a fascinating team to watch at the deadline if they would trade away Benedict Mathurin, who's averaging 22.5 points this year, 5.5 rebounds, shooting 45% from the field, 40% from 3. He's going to want to get a nice extension in the offseason when he could be a restricted free agent. I don't know if Indiana would just think, you know what, like, he's restricted, we have no chance of losing him for nothing, we can match any deal, we can wait till the offseason, maybe a sign and trade transpires. Or if a team really wants Mathurin at the deadline, we could see that. Like, could there be an Indiana Pacer Dallas Mavericks trade, because I think the Mavericks are going to trade some of their bigs as well. And yeah, the Pacers could definitely be scary next year because Boston's going to be better next year. There's still going to be some good teams in the Eastern Conference, but if Haliburton can look 90% of 2025 Haliburton, they keep Siakam, they basically keep everybody and move Mathurin for a big, they take somebody in the top 5 in the NBA draft, they could definitely be the favorites to win the East in 2027. Nikola mentions here for the Denver Nuggets that Nikola Jokic wins MVP, the Finals, and Finals MVP and becomes a top 5 player all time. So yeah, I do think if you win 2 titles maybe in this decade, it holds a little bit more weight just because of how competitive the NBA is right now. The Nuggets won it all in 2023, Jokic Finals MVP, and then they lost in the second round back-to-back years. Jokic, who could have won MVP last year, is once again averaging almost a near 30-point triple-double on elite efficiency. 29 points, 11 assists, leading the NBA in assists as somebody that is 6'11". He's leading the NBA in rebounds, 12.5 a night, while shooting 63% from the field, 70% on twos. He's shooting 44% on threes and 85% from the free throw line. Him and Shea are just in a completely different tier of everybody else right now, in my opinion. And I do think offensively, or at least what they can provide on the basketball court, yeah, Jokic could be looked at as a top 5 player of all time. But when you go into those conversations, accolades mean so much as well. And we know that Jokic just has 1 ring at the moment. I think getting that second ring in Finals MVP can really go a long way for him because Kevin Durant only has 2 rings, right? And he's looked at as one of the best players of all time. Jokic has 3 MVPs. He's got 2 MVP runner-ups as well. If he can get his 4th MVP this year and a Finals ring, top 5 player of all time, I don't really think I could disagree with that one. AJ mentions here that Yegor Dorman has a good second half to the year and makes all rookie first team. And honestly, Yegor's been playing some really good basketball as of late. He had a really good game against Philadelphia, arguably the best game of his career. He had 23 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. And it's against a competitive 76ers backcourt as well that had Jared McCain and Tyrese Maxey out there. He definitely intrigues me the most out of all these Nets rookies. Him and Drake Powell, I would say, going forward. Yegor was a good shooter to start off his BYU career, but really struggled with his 3-point shot. And I think what he could be as a 3-point shooter in this league makes him such an effective long-term point guard. And I hope they continue to develop him as a point guard because I think that's where his value can be maximized because he's a good shooter. He can finish finish all right around the rim, and I think it can get better over time with trials and errors, and hopefully builds up a good connection with Nick Claxton or Day'Ron Sharpe long term. It's such a good rookie class that it's going to be tough for him to be an all-rookie first-team guy because you have Cooper Flagg, you have Con Knipple. He's going to be competing with Edgecombe, Harper, Cedric Howard, Derek Queen, and some of those guys. It's definitely a possibility, though. BC mentions here that the Dallas Mavericks should not trade Anthony Davis right now. He's at his lowest value of all time and can only go up. Hopefully they let him play again and regain his value before trading him to a team like Charlotte or Chicago. It would be fascinating if they ended up trading him to one of those two teams. Now, the Dallas Mavericks are 5-15. They just lost to the LA Lakers. They are currently 23rd in the NBA in terms of net rating. They're a top 5 defensive team, but they are the worst offensive team in terms of offensive rating this season. We all know that comes back on point guard play. Brandon Williams, Klay Thompson, and D'Angelo Russell have been some of the worst offensive players shooting the ball this season. Jaden Hardy hasn't been great for them around the rim. Caleb Martin has kind of been a non-factor offensively, and they're putting so much of a tax on PJ Washington, Cooper Flagg, Max Christie, Najee Marshall, and Anthony Davis. And AD just recently came back against the LA Lakers. He really wasn't great in that game. He played 28 minutes, but by far looked like the Anthony Davis that at least started the year, or at least was picking up some momentum against Washington, Toronto, and OKC before he went down with the injury. And I agree here. They should not trade Anthony Davis right now. In a perfect world, he kind of goes back to what he looked like at the start of the year. He has some monster games in January, early February, and a team talks themselves into trading for Anthony Davis. You're not getting a Luka Doncic type return for him, but if you can get at least good enough assets to restart this thing around Cooper Flagg, that's probably the best case scenario at this point. King mentions here for the Orlando Magic that their executive Jeff Weltman is an underrated drafter, and this will lead them to an NBA Finals appearance this season. Now, a lot of people probably had Orlando as maybe a dark horse Finals contender this year, just because the Eastern Conference being as wide open as it is. You saw there was a path that they could beat one of Cleveland or New York to maybe get to the Conference Finals or the NBA Finals, and their drafting is definitely on display right now. Most of their core has come internally. Everybody outside of basically Wendell Carter Jr., Desmond Bane, Goga Bitadze, and maybe their worst player right now, Tyus Jones, has all been drafted. Franz, Paulo, Suggs, Black, De Silva, Jet Howard, Jonathan Isaac, Jace Richardson, Noah Penda, all these guys Jeff Weltman drafted. So I agree. I think Weltman has done a great job drafting. I think even the Paolo Banchero pick was impressive because there was no consensus #1 pick. There was an alternate reality where Jabari Smith Jr. was almost the #1 guy. So he made the right decision there. He got Franz Wagner outside of the top 5. He got Jalen Suggs at number 5 as well. And I think took a chance on Anthony Black and Tristan De Silva and some of those guys who have looked really good this year for Orlando. Desmond Bane just had maybe the best game of his Orlando Magic career, winning that NBA Cup game in a thriller against the 1-seeded Detroit Pistons. And the Magic have looked better over the last few weeks, and it's kind of been a coincidence, maybe not, with Paolo Banchero getting injured. I'm very fascinated to see how those on-off numbers look with Franz and Paolo as we get later into the year. Will that ever be something to maybe monitor at the deadline? Probably not this year, but I think the Orlando Magic, if they could really click with Paolo around these shooters and defenders, they can definitely go to the NBA Finals. Star mentions here that the LA Lakers make the finals off the back of a Luka masterclass once again, proving that he's the best point guard in the NBA. I think it's a fun debate right now who's the best point guard in the NBA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Luka Doncic. I just think when you look at the last 2 years, you gotta go with Shai in my opinion. But Luka's saying hold on now, I may win the scoring title right now. He's leading the NBA in points per game, 35 a night. He's leading the NBA in free throws and free throws attempted. He's also averaging 9.5 assists, 8.5 rebounds, and has been super effective around the rim, shooting 60% on twos. He's made LeBron James's life so much easier, and him and Austin Reeves have really been this two-man punch this year that's allowed the Lakers to have the 6th best offense in the league right now, because they still don't have an amazing net rating. It's 12th in the NBA, but this team is the 2 seed right now. I think an OKC Lakers conference finals or semifinals would be absolute cinema. We saw Luka beat Shai when he was on Dallas in the 2024 playoffs, and I think it would live up to the hype and then some this year as well. I'm still waiting for the Luka Jokic playoff series. I really hope we get that over the next few years, maybe this year as well, because I'm pretty confident that the top 5 is going to be OKC, Lakers, Rockets, Spurs, Nuggets in some way, shape, or form. Maybe Minnesota is the most likely team out of that Phoenix, Wolves, Warriors, Blazers tier to kind of jump up into that top 5. Either way, we're on pace for another great Western Conference seeding finish. JP Talks mentions that the Knicks get to the finals with ease, blowing past the other Eastern teams to win the conference. I mean, I have to disagree with this one. As a Knicks fan, there's no ease with this team. There's no easy playoff series or just playoff game victory. You watched all their games against Philly a couple years ago. That series was unreal, back and forth. all 6 games. Last year against Detroit, same thing. Last year against Boston, there were some blowouts in that one, but even the Indiana series as well. The Knicks don't know how to kind of take care of business. They haven't for at least a little bit. But Jalen Brunson, I think, needs to be talked about more. Like, he has looked better individually this year, in my opinion, than Cade Cunningham, who people want to put in MVP conversations right now. That definitely goes back on their team's record. But Brunson is averaging 29 points, a career high, 6 assists, shooting 48% from the field, 38% from 3, and 85% from the free throw line, only taking 6.5 free throws a night, basically in half of Luka Doncic. Karl-Anthony Towns is starting to heat up a little bit as of late. Mikal Bridges has been super efficient for the Knicks this year as well, and you can definitely watch them at the moment, missing OG Anunoby and what he provides for them so much. I think Miles McBride and Josh Hart have stepped up. Jordan Clarkson and now injured Landry Shamet have had their moments, but like Gershon Yabusele has been a massive disappointment this year. The Knicks' end of the bench isn't great, outside of maybe like a nice Tyler Kolek or Mohamed Diawara stretch. But yeah, the Knicks are a good offensive team. They're almost an elite offensive team, but they have struggled this year defensively. They are top 5 in net rating at the moment. They just had a nice win against the Milwaukee Bucks in which Giannis came back. There's just still so much time to go, and I think in the East this year, a lot of these teams are pretty close in talent level. When you look at Detroit, Toronto, Miami, New York, Atlanta, Cleveland, Orlando, all these teams, I think, could go either way right now in a playoff series. Jackie Boy mentions here for the Sacramento Kings that they are going to trade away Domantas Sabonis. Now, I feel like we're on a path for this one as well. The Kings have been one of the more disappointing teams this year, 5-15. Nobody expected the Kings to be good defensively, but you have Zach LaVine, DeRozan, Sabonis, Russell Westbrook, Monk, Schroeder. This team should at least be a top 15 offensive team. No, they are a bottom 4 offensive team at the moment. They are the second worst team in terms of net rating this year. There's a chance Del Christie is not coaching this team at the end of the year. I think the only bright side for this team has been a 37-year-old Russell Westbrook and Keegan Murray, who's basically just played 5 games. This team is an absolute disaster right now. I'm just trying to think, though, who wants to trade for Domantas Sabonis? Would it be a team like the Golden State Warriors? Because you really have to kind of re-identify your offense with Sabonis being the main offensive hub down low, and he's also going to downgrade your defensive ability as well. And Sabonis is currently hurt right now. He's dealing with a knee injury. I think if Sabonis were to get traded, it would maybe be an off-season type of move. Blizzard mentions here for the Utah Jazz that Keontae George is a top 10 point guard in the league. Now, the point guard position is loaded, so it is very tough to get into that top 10, but I do think he's right outside it at the moment. He's averaging 24 points, 4 rebounds, and 7 assists this year, shooting 45% from the field, 33% from 3, and 89% from the free throw line. At the start of the year, I was like, you know what? Sometimes you see these guys get off to crazy starts, and the length of the season, the workload as a number 1 or number 2 option really catches up to them. Keontae George has been better over the last few weeks as well. His efficiency is going upwards. He's having by far the best efficient year of his career. And what I love about Keontae George right now, he's getting to the free throw line 7 times a night, and he's a 90% free throw shooter as well. This is an untradeable asset right now for the Utah Jazz because you're getting above average true shooting percentage, good playmaking ability, and high quality shot making from Keontae George. He and maybe Ace Bailey, him and Lauri Markkanen can be the future of Utah. And he was the 16th overall pick as well. This was a home run selection by the Jazz front office. He's been unreal this year. Definitely could be the front runner for most improved right now. Dwayne mentions here for the Charlotte Hornets that they should trade away LaMelo for Jeremy Grant and Scoot Henderson and start the Conconnipple era. Now, there was like a weird report out of Kelly Iko at Yahoo Sports last week that apparently LaMelo wants out, that the Hornets front office would be willing to trade him. Now, LaMelo shut down those rumors, but you could still bring up the idea of that as well because LaMelo has been way too up and down for the team this year. Conconnipple has clearly outplayed LaMelo Ball, but I think it goes back to what we were talking about with Anthony Davis before. If you're trading away LaMelo Ball right now, you're basically selling him at his lowest value. But then again, if LaMelo regains that value, why would you want to trade away a 24-year-old franchise point guard? So it puts them in a really tough situation at the moment. I just think like the idea of trading LaMelo is way too early on in this process for where the Hornets are going to be looking like going forward. They still want to see a decent sample size from LaMelo, Brandon Miller, and Conconnipple. All 3 of them played against the Chicago Bulls, and they were able to win that game by 7 as well. Not saying the Bulls are an elite team, but it's a nice step in the right direction to show that maybe you could be in the middle tier of the Eastern Conference for Charlotte, because that would be a massive win for them this year. Johnny mentions here for the Miami Heat that they are set to have another 2023 run, but this time will be successful in winning the finals. I'm sorry, I don't think anybody's probably beating the Oklahoma City Thunder right now, or I don't think an East team would beat a Western Conference team at the moment, but could the Heat win the the Eastern Conference? 100%. The East is way less talented right now than it was in 2023. They were in 18 in 2023 and made it out of the Eastern Conference. Their offense has been one of the more entertaining offenses this year. They're not really running any pick and roll, so it does feel like you're watching kind of a different sport at times, which I think is really entertaining. Spo is reinventing this offense around Norman Powell, Andrew Wiggins, Jaime Jaquez, and Bam Adebayo. They just recently got back Tyler Hero, who's looked great in his first 2 games back. And this team is also deep. Khalil Ware is turning into one of the best rebounders in the league, basically averaging 11 rebounds a night this year. Jaime Jaquez looks like a most improved guy. Simon Fontecchio is knocking down his threes. Pele Larson and Davion Mitchell have given the Heat some really good starts. You could say like Nikola Jovic has maybe been their only disappointing player this year, given the contract he got in the offseason. It hasn't really looked apart outside of that Portland Trailblazers game, but this team can be a lot of fun this year. The Heat own their first round pick at the end of the year. I don't know if they would look to make some type of win now move. Either way, them getting Norman Powell for free basically looks like one of the best moves of the offseason. I still can't believe it only costed them Kyle Anderson and Kevin Love. Ice Tristan mentions that Trae Young comes back strong and the Hawks finish as a top 4 seed. Both him and Jalen make the All-Star game, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker wins 6th Man of the Year. Now I'm fascinated to see how Trae Young looks with this Atlanta Hawks team when he comes back from his knee injury, because he was not shooting the ball well. The Hawks were not playing well before he got hurt in his 5th game of the year, and the Hawks have been playing some of their better basketball as of late. They're up to 12-8 on the year. They're basically above average in every single statistic. And Jalen Johnson is definitely on his way to being an all-star this year for the first time in his career. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is probably going to start too many games to end up being a 6th Man of the Year now that he started 15 games. But what a scoring week from Nickeil Alexander-Walker. 19 points this year, 3.5 assists, 46, 36, 85 splits. That's unreal. That is looking like one of the best free agency pickups of the offseason. And this team is also really deep as well. You can get some good minutes out of Mohamed Gay, Vit Krejci, Zachary Risache, the #1 overall pick from the 24 draft. Onyeka Okongwu is playing some of the best basketball of his career. Keaton Ellis can just kind of be this do-it-all role player that could just do the dirty work for you. And I think they're going to be a fun team to watch if they're good or bad when Trae Young comes back, because obviously there could be another storyline behind that. Andrew mentions here that Zach Edey's return will turn around the Grizzlies season. And if you watched the Grizzlies before the year started, you could definitely tell how much they missed having Zach Edey as an enforcer, rim protector, screen setter, rebounder down low. He's making Jaren Jackson Jr.'s life a whole lot easier. Edey, since returning from his injury, is averaging around 11 points, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks in his first 7 games back, shooting 62% basically at the rim. Even Vince Williams has kind of looked like a really good point guard since Ja Morant ended up getting hurt. He just had a 17 assist game against the Pelicans, and he had a 15 assist game against the Sacramento Kings. And the Grizzlies have been somewhat better as of late as well. They just recently beat the LA Clippers, they beat the Pelicans, they beat the Dallas Mavericks and the Kings. Not the best competition in the world, but the West, outside of like the top 7 teams, have not really looked all that competitive. There's a really good chance Memphis could end up in the play-in tournament this year, in large part because of what Zach Edey can provide this team in the box score and what the box score doesn't show. Dorgo mentions here for the Clippers that this year they have been the most disappointing team, I think, in the last 10 years. However, with a couple of adjustments, I think we could still make the playoffs. Getting rid of Ty Lue, getting some younger talent, I like Cam Thomas, and keeping some of the younger talent as well. I think Kobe Sanders is one of the bigger steals in the draft. Don't tell me that, because I really wanted my Knicks to take Kobe Sanders. They technically did, and then traded him away to take Mohamed Diawara. And yes, the Clippers at 5-14 have definitely been the most disappointing team this year. They won 50 games last year. You had a lot of old guys in the offseason. Beal, Lopez, Chris Paul. John Collins not as old, but they traded away Norman Powell to get John Collins, and this team has looked terrible defensively. Nobody outside of Kawhi and James Harden can really create their own shot. That was supposed to be Bradley Beal, but he's out for the year. So yeah, maybe they need somebody like Cam Thomas, who shouldn't really cost them too much. He's not a great defender. He's not a great passer, but if Kawhi misses a game or Harden misses a game or they're on the bench, you desperately need somebody to create their own shot, and nobody is doing that for this team right now. So if it's not going to cost you too much, I would go out and trade for Cam Thomas. I don't disagree with that one. They're desperate right now, so they got to make some type of desperate move, because for the state of the league, we do not need OKC getting a top 10 pick in this draft. Please, LA, turn it around. Genesis mentions here for the Boston Celtics, Jordan Walsh will make an all-defensive team. I don't think that's happening this year, but man, the Jordan Walsh defensive tape has been really fun to watch. And he's also been a positive offensive player as well, shooting 40% on threes, 54% on twos, and is averaging around 5 points, 4 rebounds, and assists a night. But he looks great as a point of attack defender, and he's still just 21 years old. He's 6'6". He can move very well laterally, and since they lost Drew Holiday in the offseason, they traded him away. They kind of need that elite point of attack defender, especially when you're asking Jaylen Brown and Derek White to have a higher offensive workload this year with Jason Tatum out, so Walsh can step up, do all the dirty work defensively and give all of his effort on that end of the court, something that really doesn't show up in the box score, but is so valuable, especially if he can be healthy as well. Because guys that really take on the toughest defensive assignments that play over 70 games a year do not grow on trees. CK Reacts mentions that the Cavs split up the core four and retool the roster. I feel like as a Cavs fan, it could happen. And yeah, you could say that the Cavs, with their expectations going into the year, winning 64 games last year, have been slightly disappointing. Now, Donovan Mitchell has been playing through some injuries. Darius Garland has missed a ton of time this year, and they still haven't even gotten Max Strus to play a single game yet. Now, guys like Naquan Tomlin and Craig Porter Jr. have really stepped up for this team, but Larry Nance Jr. has been a disappointing signing from the offseason. Lonzo Ball also cannot knock down a shot whatsoever, and you can make an argument Craig Porter Jr. has been a better offensive player than Lonzo right now. They recently lost to the Hawks and the Raptors, some of the teams they may play in the Eastern Conference playoffs, and they're still an objectively good team, but I think for their expectations going into the year with their tax bill for a smaller market, it's been disappointing, and I do wonder how many more years they will go with this core four. I think when you look at it, Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley are the obvious two untouchables. Mitchell has been unreal this year. Mobley's been good, but people are still expecting him to go up a tier. I'm not sure if we're ever going to see that, so I do wonder if they would trade away Jared Allen or Darius Garland at the deadline. I would still say it's less likely, just because I think at full strength they can actually win the NBA Finals or win the Eastern Conference this year and make it all worth it. But we've been saying that for them for the last couple years now, and they just get banged up every single time when it hits April and May. This person mentions here for the Chicago Bulls that they're going to trade for Anthony Davis at the deadline and go on to make the Eastern Conference Finals as a play-in team. Now, that would be something else, right? The Lakers made it to the Western Conference Finals in 2023 as a play-in team. Same with the Miami Heat that year as well. I will say Chicago doesn't have a LeBron James or Jimmy Butler walking through that door. They do have a good player in Josh Giddey. They have a nice veteran in Nikola Vucevic, a nice rising young star in Matas Buzelis, but this team still has so much ways to go. I think they've been really fun to watch this year. They can't really play a lot of defense, but they can really score the basketball. Josh Giddey's still playing like a first-time All-Star this year. Kobe White recently came back. You would like for him to maybe be a little bit more efficient. I would assume another pending free agent like Kobe White has been unreal this year in terms of his efficiency. I think Trey Jones is a good backup point guard. There are a few tank commanders on this team, and I said it going into the year, right, that I don't think they should try to cut corners. I don't think that this team should try to make the play-in tournament again. Bottom out, try to get Peterson, DeBanza, or Boozer to help you fully rebuild with Giddey, Buzelis, maybe Kobe White, maybe some assets from the veterans you trade at the deadline. This team should not make an all-in move for Anthony Davis. Please don't do that, Chicago. Please don't. For Milwaukee here, Xrath says that Ryan Rollins is winning most improved and will keep Giannis in Milwaukee. Now, they might need Ryan Rollins to win MVP to keep Giannis in Milwaukee at this point. They have lost 7 games in a row. Giannis just came back against the New York Knicks, and they ended up losing that one in their NBA Cup finale. But Ryan Rollins definitely deserves most improved conversation right now. He might be the definition of what this award should go to, not somebody that was a top pick in the draft or a lottery pick. He was somebody that was waived as a second-round pick for maybe some non-basketball reasons, but has really shown incredible progression this year. His points per game have tripled from 6 last year to 18 this year. The assists per game also tripled from about 2 last year to 6 this year. Assists have doubled, rebounds have doubled, and you'd think with this workload increasing, the efficiency would drop. No, he's shooting 48% from the field last year on 14 attempts. He shot 48% from the field last year on 4 attempts as well. The three-point shot has actually gotten better. He's a good free throw shooter. He's a good defender as well on the perimeter. If I had to give somebody to win most improved right now, I think it should go to like the Ryan Rollins, Colin Gillespie tier, and maybe less likely the Denny Avdia tier, who was a top 10 pick in the draft. Denny has been great, and we're going to get to the Blazers in a second, but I like when these second round picks and diamonds in the rough win the most improved award a little bit more. For the Blazers, though, this person mentions that Denny Avdia will make an All-NBA team, and I'd be more okay with Denny making an All-NBA team than the Most Improved Player award, because Denny kind of showed this potential last year, and he was the 9th overall pick in the NBA draft. Now, what he's doing right now is making the Wizards look not as good for that trade they made on the night of the 2024 draft. Denny this year has taken strides to being an All-NBA player 100%, 25 points, 6.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists on good efficiency, 48, 39, 80 splits. He's 6'8", 230 pounds. He's a great downhill attacker and has great vision as well to kick it out to the corner or throw an alley-oop as a downhill driver. I would have to map out all 15 guys right now, but Denny definitely deserves some conversation. Maybe not just All-NBA third team, but All-NBA second team. Definitely going to be another first-time All-Star this year. And to wrap things out, the Philadelphia 76ers, Jordan mentions, if Embiid has another bad year, they will try to trade him. If they can't trade him, they will waive him and build around Maxey and VJ. Now, that's a different conversation for a different day, possibly waiving a Paul George or Joel Embiid to really free up a little bit of current cap space to give them flexibility around Maxi's second contract, around McCain, Edgecombe on these rookie contracts as well. Maybe save a little bit of money to re-sign Quentin Grimes in the offseason because Embiid has only played 6 games this year. You just can't keep doing the same song and dance because you're never going to build up the continuity or at least the confidence that Embiid will be healthy for a playoff series. I don't know what the Sixers window is. Maybe they shouldn't even have anything like expectations to win a playoff series this year because 70% of your cap space, Joel Embiid and Paul George, have been super unreliable with their availability to play. Paul George has looked fine since he came back, but he's averaging about 13 points on somewhat of a minutes restriction. But Paul George is making max money. It just kind of stinks at this point. I do wonder if we're heading towards a direction, I brought this up before, where they pull up Bradley Beal or Damian Lillard in the offseason and just stretch and wait Paul George, and then he'll probably just end up being a Clipper or Warrior. They got to get those average ages up somehow. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of these hot takes that I talked about. Let me know what you think about them down below. Subscribe so you can be featured in one of the next ones that I do in this style. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.